all the polls in the state have now closed. The votes are already being counted. And on the Democratic side, it is a dogfight. Bernie Sanders leading right now. Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar vying for second. Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden much farther back on these early results. Only 14% of the vote is in so far. For the Republicans, no surprise. ABC News can project that President Trump will score a massive win here. He is the projected winner against Bill Weld, of course, former governor of the state of Massachusetts, probably getting less than 10% of the vote. We're also learning an awful lot from the voters coming into the polls tonight from our exit polls after the votes. And I want to bring in Tom Yamas up in Manchester for more on that. Tom, we're learning a couple things. Number one, so many voters on the Democratic side made up their minds in just these last few days.
Yeah, that's right, George. Some of the exit polling we're getting right now shows exactly that, and the number is stunning. 50% of voters say they made up their mind when they went to the poll today. We have some of the graphics we want to put up on the screen for you shortly. And essentially, these voters came in undecided, and they went, and you see that right there, 50-50. So what does this tell us, George? This tells us a couple of things. Campaigns matter, especially in the final hours leading up to tonight. Also, the ABC News debate, and so many people said Senator Amy Klobuchar was the one who came out on top there. How did that affect voters? We're going to have to wait and see. The early results show she's having a pretty good night, but it is very early. Something else really interesting that we've learned from the exit polls, the amount of independent voters that voted in this primary. You know, of course, in New Hampshire, independents can vote in either primary. And look at this right here, 47% independent, 50% obviously Democrat, 3% there Republican, but 47% independent. This is more than 4 years ago, George, and almost the record, which was 1992. Now, last time around, Bernie Sanders, those independents broke for him by around 70%. Will that happen this time around? I can tell you this, George, it's just anecdotal. I went to a couple Mayor Pete events. I spoke to a lot of voters there who 4 years ago they voted for John Kasich in the primary, in the Republican primary. So it shows how voters are changing their mind. We'll have to see if the independents stayed with Bernie or if they broke towards Mayor Pete or Senator Amy Klobuchar. And of course, we're watching to see what happened to former Vice President Joe Biden, not even here tonight.
Right, he's not there. He's already down in South Carolina. Reading the results ahead of time. Remember, at the start of the debate on Friday night, he said he expected to take a hit here. That appears to be coming true so far. Mary Bruce, I want to go up to you in Manchester, New Hampshire as well. We're going to be also following tonight the breakdown of older versus younger voters and women voters, whether they dominate at the polls tonight.
Yeah, and what is so interesting here is that voters, of course, as we've talked to many of them, are deciding essentially if you want a woman for president, are you going with Elizabeth Warren or Amy Klobuchar? I was surprised spending some time with Senator Klobuchar over the last 24 hours. How many of her supporters actually referenced that? How many of them still were at her event saying they hadn't made up their mind yet? And of course, as Tom was mentioning, the exit polls here are reflecting that for so many voters here, this was a game time decision, and that a lot of them feel that debate in particular encourage them to give a lot of voters, a lot of candidates, a closer look, like Amy Klobuchar. She mentioned that to me particularly. A lot of young voters at her event as well, and of course, so many young voters here trend towards Bernie Sanders. I was at his massive rally here last night, more than 7,000 people. This is Bernie Sanders territory in many ways, of course, from a neighboring state. He won this state by 22 points in 2016, and the young vote very much still with him, I can tell you, George.
Mary Bruce, thanks very much. Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.